I bought this inflatable SUP, and as you can see, it has permanently mounted fins. That's okay and all, but they're really small, about 3 inches or so. It made for a hard paddle because I had to change from paddling from the right side to the left side quite often. I'd get 1 or 2 strokes and then I'd have to change the other side. What I really need to do is get rid of that small permanent fin and install a fin box with an 8-inch fin. And I'm going to show you how to do that on this episode of Do It Step by Step. Okay, let's see what we need to do the job. First, we'll need a heat gun or hair dryer to soften up the material that's holding down the fin, a hot plate to rest that heat gun on, an assortment of putty knives, pliers, and channel locks to remove the material, scissors, masking tape, duct tape, and to draw a straight line, a small rope and string was helpful along with the straight edge, Sharpie and pencil, acetone to prep and clean the area, a stripping pad and a rag, and the right glue to attach the new fin box. And of course it helps to have gloves. Okay, start off with your inflatable SUP totally deflated. And what you want to do is evenly heat the area around the fin with your heat gun. Try not to hit the area beyond the fin box that's holding that fin in. You want to concentrate most of your heat around that fin. Once you start getting the fabric pulled up, grab your pliers or channel locks and start lifting. This is going to be a long process. I just sped this up for the sake of time. Now as you notice, I go from one side of the fin to the other side of the fin. That's so I could just get an area heated up evenly all the way around. Once I got to the base of the back fin, I used a pair of scissors to cut it. That way I can split the duty on both the left side and the right side. Now check out the base of that fin. See how it's blue? That's an indication that the fabric is PVC, not Hypalon. PVC fabric is the same color on both sides, where Hypalon is colored on one side and it's either gray or black on the other side. That's important to know so you get the right adhesive for the job. With all the fabric removed, I'm heating up the fin and using a putty knife to separate the fin from the SUP. With a rag moistened with acetone, I'll wipe the whole area down and then start knocking down the high spot with a putty knife and a scrubbing pad. The acetone does a really good job of removing the old adhesive and softening up the material so the scrubbing pad and the putty knife can do their job. The next step is to find the center of the board. To do this, fully inflate your SUP and tape a small rope or string to the very tip of the board. Take that string, pull it all the way to the back and tape it to the center of the tail. When you do that, the string indicates the center of the board. Once it's all lined up, you take a Sharpie or a pencil and you mark the area so you can center the fin box on it. With the string removed, put a straight edge that connects the two marks. Draw a line with a Sharpie connecting the two. This will be the center area where the fin box will be installed. For this install, I chose the Air 7 fin box system. It consists of a base plate, the fin box with the fabric installed, and this one came with an 8-inch fin. The cool thing I like about this fin box system, it doesn't matter which way you mount that fin box. You can't screw this up and mount it backwards by mistake. To prove this, I've removed the 8-inch fin and turned it around. As you can see, it's pretty foolproof. Once you got that box mounted in there, you can put your fin on the right way. What I did here is I eyeballed some centerline marks at the front and the back of the fin box right on the fabric. I really don't trust the fabric for center lining, and what I'm going to do is try and get it as close as possible to the center line of the SUP and then center line the actual base plate for the fin box. Once I got this thing pretty much where I wanted it to go, I lifted up the fabric to where the fabric meets the fin box and I drew a scribe line right there. And then I did the same to the back. Drew a line right there on the back of the SUP, and then I did the same thing to the sides. I lifted up the fabric, drew a scribe mark, just so I can align the base plate without the fin box. The next step is to pull off the fin box and just use the base plate to line up with the marks you put. That's the first mark of the fin box itself, and that's the back mark of the fin box. The base plate is actually a little bit shorter, so I made the gap equal on both ends to center up the base plate. The cool thing about the Air 7 base plate, it's translucent. So if you make your line dark enough, you can actually have that line go right through the center of the base plate and you can see it. Once you have that thing centered within the two marks, you can take your pencil or marker and then trace around the outside of the base plate, and that'll be where you want to glue it. This will guarantee that your fin box system will be centered on your SUP. Once you've outlined the base plate, remove the base plate and then prep the area with a final sanding and a wipe down with acetone. I started off with the glue that came with my repair kit because I know it would work with the fabric, but I come to find out to apply 2 coats, the glue was nowhere near enough. I went ahead and ordered a can of the right adhesive online and it's ready to go. So I recommend, if you're going to do this installation, just go ahead and buy an 8-ounce can of the right adhesive. Once the glue is dry to touch or just a little bit tacky, you can go ahead and start your final placement of the part. Just remember, be careful to align it and look through the base plate. It's translucent and you can see that center line. Just line it up and you're good to go. Now is also a good time to dry fit your fin box. Make sure it's all lined up, and if you want to, do a final tracing around the fabric. For this next step, you want to move outdoors. You need a lot of ventilation because the glue has very strong fumes. Apply masking tape to the outside of the line you traced when you had your fin box installed. What that will do is help prevent glue from accidentally going in areas of the SUP that you didn't want it to go to. This step, I'm also applying duct tape to the fabric material, and I'll show you why. Until then, let's see what I'm doing here. I'm prepping the surface of both the fin box and the SUP, a final wipe down of acetone to clean it, and I'm starting to glue. The can only recommended 1 coat, but everybody I've spoken to and researched, they recommend at least 2 coats. I applied 1 coat and did a 3 to 5 minute tack time, and once it was dry to touch, I applied the second coat. Oh, by the way, I only applied the glue to the fabric. I did not apply glue purposely on the base plate or on the fin box, because if you damage the fin box, you could just remove the fabric and the fin box will separate from the base plate, and you could just install a new fin box. The base plate won't have to come off. Now, with the second coat installed and dried, I prepare the fin box for installation. I use the duct tape to move the fabric out of the way so I can center position the fin box right on top of the base plate. This will help prevent the fabric material from accidentally contacting the glued surface of the SUP. I want to control this as much as possible so I can use my plastic spreader to smooth out the fabric and avoid any unnecessary creases or air bubbles. With the fabric out of the way, I line up the base plate with the fin box, and I grab my spreader and start working the fabric down, starting at the back and the side and moving my way up. You don't want to rush this, but you don't want to work too slowly either, because the adhesive will make contact and they'll start to stick together. So work at a good pace and make sure you get all the creases and bubbles out, working from the rigid side of the fin box out. As you start working those air bubbles out and the creases out, remove the duct tape and start smoothing everything out. At this point, I'm using the spreader and turning it sideways to get right along the hard part of the fin box and working my way out from the fin box towards the outside of the fabric. Once you get to the point that it's all smooth and no more glue is oozing out, you can start removing the masking tape from the SUP. To install the fin, you have to use the fin screw and the fin nut. What you want to do is you want to take the fin screw and thread it into the fin nut. Once you got it started with a couple of threads, you want to place the fin nut inside the fin box. There's a little opening and the fin nut will go right in there and then slide it up. Once it's in a position further up in the fin box, remove the fin screw. Take your fin and there's a pin. Slide that pin inside the opening of the fin box and then angle your fin forward to align the hole in the fin to the nut that's inside the fin box, and then insert the screw, tighten it up with the fin nut. And that's how you install the fin into the fin box. You want to wait at least 24 hours for the glue to fully cure and to set permanently onto your SUP. There's a lot of flexibility into this fin box. If you slide the fin all the way back, you'll track truer and straighter and have a lot more stability. If you slide the fin forward, you'll be able to turn faster. So if you're going to use it in the surf, that'll probably be the position you want it in. But either way, that 8-inch fin is going to give you a lot more straightforward stability than that 3-inch fin that came with the SUP. Overall, I'm pretty happy with the install, and I hope you have good luck with your installation too. But for now, this is Bobby V with Do It Step by Step.